If you're someone that's new to the idea of buying your first property or you're relocating to the province of British Columbia, today's video is definitely for you. We're going to completely unearth our exact home buyer's presentation that we give to all of our clients when we help them buy a property. Now, I'm going to go through this entire thing with you. It's going to be a little bit of a different video because obviously it's not going to be interactive. You can't ask me questions directly. However, with that being said, you're going to come away from this knowing the exact steps and everything you need to know to find success in what you need to do to buy your first home or relocate to the province for that matter. So if that sounds good, let's get into it. My name is Darren, realtor in Surrey, BC, and team leader of the Germyn Group. If this is your first time to this channel, make sure you subscribe because you don't want to miss out on any of the great information that we're providing on a regular basis about the areas of Surrey, South Surrey, and White Rock. We get phone calls all the time, texts all the time, emails all the time from people just like you looking to relocate to the area. So whether you're considering moving in 9 days or 90 days, be sure to hit us up and we will make sure that your move to one of the areas that we service is a smooth one. This presentation is called our Home Buyers Mastery Session. And the reason we call it that is, I find so many people get into the home buying process and they do it completely backwards. They do it backwards in the respect that they don't take the time to slow down and actually learn how to do it properly. They don't learn the mistakes or the common pitfalls that a lot of people experience. And they're just so excited to go out and look at property that they really just piece together their experience as they go. We don't believe that's the right way to do it at the Germyn Group. We like to slow it down. So number one, we understand what's important to our clients prior to getting started, but we also help put them in the absolute best position to make the best decisions that they can. We want them to avoid paying unnecessary money where they don't have to, avoid the heartbreak that you can experience, and just all of the other negatives that can go along with purchasing a home. There's an interesting statistic that comes from the NAR. The NAR is the body that governs all of the real estate professionals in the United States, or at least the vast majority of them. And they also survey home buyers and home sellers. And in fact, they found that 36% of home buyers are less than satisfied with their home purchase. So by doing today's presentation, hopefully you're going to avoid being one of those 36%. And you're going to have a much more successful experience. So with that being said, let's kind of jump into it here. Now, who am I? Why should you listen to me and why should you pay attention to what I'm telling you? Well, a little bit about myself. I've been a realtor since 2007. Since that time, that's, my gosh, as the date of filming this, that's 16 to 17 years now. But I've been in the top 10%, fortunate enough to be in the top 10% of the industry since 2013, and in the top 1% of the industry since 2017. And that's really just based on the amount of transactions that we've been able to help people with. So we get to experience the transaction of a property quite frequently. A little bit of my kind of professional background as well, outside of real estate, is actually participating in what we call organized real estate. So roughly for about 8 years, I served on the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board from anywhere from director all the way up to the chair or president of the board at the time, and also have sat on the Canadian Real Estate Association as well as a director, which is helping govern the realtors and the real estate industry from coast to coast all across Canada at the time of filming this, representing over 160,000 real estate members. So definitely have a unique experience that some others may not be able to lend on the real estate business. And lastly, I'd like to think we're fairly good at what we do. So myself and our real estate team, we've been featured on multiple publications in the news and whatnot, as you saw on the intro to this video. Global BC, CTV, Business in Vancouver, the list goes absolutely on, and there's more always coming as we tend to go. So I'd like to think that when I'm giving you advice, you're getting advice from one of the top people in the industry based on obviously what I'm sharing with you. And this advice is completely unbiased. For you watching this at home, I don't know who you are. You could be watching this in the comfort of your home, and maybe you're at the point where you're a little uncomfortable with the idea of reaching out to a real estate professional. It's just a little bit early for you to consider doing that. So this is a great way for you to get the information in advance. And it's also a great way for me to help make sure that you get the right information, regardless of who you choose to work with, because you might be in other areas of the province or other areas that we don't service as a real estate team. So I can help make sure that you get some good advice. Our real estate team, we service the Surrey, White Rocks, South Surrey, and surrounding municipalities. So Cloverdale, Langley, New Westminster, Ladner, North Delta, that sort of thing. So if you are someone that's looking to relocate to that area, please consider reaching out to us if you find value in this video. Speaking, if you do find value in this video as well, it would do us a huge solid if you, number one, give this video a thumbs up, like it, and help other people like you who are looking to buy real estate find this video so they can have the same value that you're going to receive from it. And if you're thinking of relocating to one of the areas that our team services, I would encourage you to subscribe to our channel as well. Not only do we release area-specific videos on everything you need to know about the communities that we serve, but we also release timely real estate information related to the province and anything happening with real estate generally in British Columbia. So we'd love for you to subscribe, and we'd love for you to support the channel in that regard as well. You'll notice at the bottom of the slide there too, it says views expressed are not intended to replace independent professional advice. This is obviously a blanket advice for you. So specific scenarios require specific advice, of course, and the information that is being provided in this video is current as of the date of recording. Okay, you got all that now? Let's kind of jump into it here. So we're going to talk about, first of all, the path to a successful purchase. This is probably more so for people that haven't been through the process before, but also if you're new to the province, things in British Columbia work a little bit differently. So you're going to want to pay attention to see if you can catch some of those nuances, especially if you have bought a property before. I always find in our practice, some of the most challenging clients that we work with are the ones that they think they know it all, but unfortunately they don't. There's lots to learn still. And obviously that's why you hire a real estate professional to help you and help guide you. So by watching this, you're gonna get that advice kind of right off the bat. So one of the first things we like to do is really kind of slow it down and understand where you're coming from. These are questions that we like to know to really flesh out how we can better help you, and also to help kind of keep you on track when you're making your decisions. One of them is who's involved, and that's a little more complicated sometimes than just you. You're not the only one thinking about where it might be a good place to live. Do you have a spouse? Do you have a family with special requirements, whether that's kids in a special school district that they want to be in, or a school catchment? Do you have parents that are living with you that need to commute or have access to healthcare services? Do you need to be close to transportation? So you need to have conversations with all those people that are important in the decision-making process and make sure that they feel a part of that. Maybe they're going to watch this video as well, but they're definitely a part of the entire process. One of the worst things that can happen is they can fly in later on and not have all the great education you've had, like watching this video or even looking at properties, and they don't really understand how you got to the end result. So you want to consider who might be involved for sure. What are the important considerations that you have in a home? What are your absolute must-have necessities that you absolutely have to accomplish when you do this? What location is central to your life? Where's work? Where's school? Where's daycare for the kids? Do your friends live? All that sort of stuff is really important because it's your life. You're the one that's going to be sitting in the car making the commute every single day to work or to your friends or to your favorite coffee shop on the weekend. So you want to make sure that you're very clear on the location. I'm sure you've heard of location before, and that is certainly no different when you're considering where you're going to pick your home. How will you finance your plan? We're going to talk all about financing in this video today. At a very high level, of course, because I don't know your specific information, but naturally you need money to buy a home. So you need to figure out how you're going to do that to be able to make your plans come true. And when do you want to be in your new home? What's your time frame like? We're going to talk a little bit about time frame a little bit later on, but if I could provide somewhat of an average for you, somebody that calls me and maybe says they want to be in their new home for the summertime, well, they probably don't realize that it could take easily at least 3 months from actually starting the process, going out and looking at properties until they're actually living in that home as the new owner. So you want to keep that time frame in mind, because if you're maybe renting and you have to be out of your rental at a specific time, or maybe you own a home somewhere else in the country and your mortgage is coming due and you need to sell, it's always better to start those conversations early than too late, because you may be surprised at the amount of time it can take sometimes until you're actually able to get into your new home. So this is kind of the first step. You cannot buy a place unless you got money. I think we're all probably on the same page with that, regardless of who you are. So we're going to talk a little bit about getting your loan organized. There is 3 different ways of kind of getting some financials. One is an online calculator that many of the banks and financial institutions offer. That is certainly the probably worst way that you can get your numbers. It's great for, initial research and that sort of thing, but it's not going to get you where you need when it actually comes time to get your loan. Now, there's 2 other ways. There's something called a pre-approval, and there's something called a pre-qualification. And it's really, really important that you understand what the differences are, because this is something that could effectively make or break your purchase when it comes time to actually negotiate with the seller and commit to buying a home. So what a pre-approval is. A pre-approval is an excellent start when you first decide that you're considering buying a home. It's not something that we recommend for when you're actually house hunting, but it's something kind of in the lead up to that. This is where you're going to understand your options a little bit better, what types of mortgages might be out there, and you're also going to be able to get a ballpark estimate on what you can afford. I want to stress the word ballpark though, and ballpark is not good enough for actually knowing how much you can afford. Now, many people will go into a major bank and they will look to go get a pre-approval. I got to be frank with you. A pre-approval to me is the lazy way that a lot of banks or even mortgage professionals sometimes what they'll do, they'll give a pre-approval to a potential home buyer and they'll say, you go out and shop, we'll figure out the rest when you find the property. This is a huge no-no, okay? And the reason is because you have not had all of your financial details reviewed by that bank and you have not received a proper pre-qualification. So as an example, they tell you to go out and they tell you to go spend whatever, $1 million as an example. You find the absolute perfect home for $1 million, you write an offer on it, you spend all this money researching the property, getting a home inspection, getting an appraisal done. You are so excited. It is the property for you. And then you send the deal to the bank and they actually qualify you for that mortgage and you find out you can't afford it. How devastating is that? How terrible is that? You've wasted money, you've wasted time, and worst of all, you thought you found a home that was going to last you for X amount of time or maybe even be your forever home, only to find out that you can't buy it, you can't actually get it. That's a terrible experience. So you want to demand from whoever is doing your financing that you get a pre-qualification. A pre-qualification is an essential step when you are house hunting. As you can see on the slide here, it's an accurate assessment of affordability. You can narrow down your lender so you can actually decide who's going to do the lending for you, whatever bank you'd like to work with. You can troubleshoot if there's anything that pops up maybe on your credit score or anything like that. You can troubleshoot all of that prior to getting involved with a property. You can also get a rate hold for anywhere usually between 90 to 120 days. So what a rate hold is, for those of you that don't know, is perhaps rates are X amount today, but by the time you actually go to purchase a home, maybe they've gone up by 0.5%. Ideally, you'd like to take advantage of that lower rate that's available. So what you're going to do is you're going to get a rate hold that's going to freeze that rate in place for the next 90 to 120 days, allowing you to take advantage of it later on. If the rates were to go down, well, you can just simply choose to take advantage of the newest, most available rates, the lowest rates at that time. So a rate hold is an excellent tool in your toolbox as a home purchaser. And lastly, a pre-qualification is going to allow you to prepare or proceed rather with speed and confidence, and also give the seller more confidence in accepting your offer. Now, one thing you're going to want to understand as well is the difference between going directly to the bank and going to a mortgage broker. And there's different things that both can offer you. However, when you go to a bank, there's actually kind of two levels of the bank as well. There's going directly to the branch, or there's going to somebody called a mobile mortgage specialist. We not incredibly, that's not the word I'm looking for. We really, really implore you to go to a mobile mortgage specialist, specifically somebody who is compensated on commission. Okay. Commission can be a dirty word, but in this case, it is certainly not. And here's the reason why. When you go directly into a branch, the person that you're dealing with typically is an hourly employee that is completely overworked. And if you've got a half-hour appointment scheduled together, there's likely somebody coming in immediately after you. Anytime we have clients that work directly with the bank, they've walked into the bank to get a mortgage product, they have had a terrible experience. Not every time, but I'd say 9 times out of 10. They find the bank to be completely unresponsive, slow. They're not always the best at their job in helping you get your mortgage and that proper pre-qualification that we talked about. So we kind of want you to avoid that for most situations. The mobile mortgage specialist is a much better option. They are an extension of the bank. Okay. They can still help you with all the bank's products. So let's say you're going to Royal Bank as an example. Well, if you have a mobile mortgage specialist with Royal Bank, they are an extension of the bank. They can help you with all of the bank's identical products. However, they can meet with you after hours. They can meet with you in your home as an example. I mentioned that they're also compensated on commission. And here's why I really like that. They only get compensated if they help bring you a product that makes sense for you, and it is the best thing that you can find as available. This is a great way of getting a mortgage because you know that, well, obviously they want to be compensated for their work and for their time and for going and sourcing a mortgage and doing all the, the paperwork and advice that they give you that goes along with that. But they want to get compensated. So they're going to typically work incredibly hard for you to make sure that they can find you a great product that you're going to be happy with. So we love mobile mortgage specialists. The third option that you could consider is a mortgage broker. Now, a mortgage broker is different than a mobile mortgage specialist. The reason being is they can actually take you to a variety of lenders. They're not tied to any one lender. Now, not all big banks work with mortgage specialists. At the time of filming this, as an example, RBC and CIBC, as an example, don't work with mortgage brokers. However, a mortgage broker can take you to credit unions, some of the other big banks that are out there, or there's other lenders that aren't brick and mortar type banks that you might be able to, or that you might have your bank account with, but they specifically deal in mortgages and they can only be approached by mortgage brokers. Oftentimes, they have a much better offering in terms of something called how your mortgage penalty is calculated. This is really, really important, okay? And I want you to note this as you're watching this. Your mortgage is so much more than just the rate that you pay. 6 out of 10 Canadians will terminate their mortgage before the contract with the bank or the lender is up. And you need to understand how that is calculated, because if 6 out of 10 are going to do it, there's a good chance that you may do it as well. You might not last a full 5 years in your new home and want to sell early. If you have to pay the bank or the lender a penalty in that, you better know how much that is. And different banks or lenders calculate it differently. Typically, when you work with a mortgage broker and they don't send you to a big bank, they'll send you to one of their other lender partners, or maybe a credit union, or depending on the type of mortgage you get. That's information that you will get. That's guidance that you will get to make sure you understand exactly what you're getting into. So mortgage brokers also are compensated on commission, just like the mobile mortgage specialist mentioned earlier. So those are the two options that we definitely recommend. And maybe you choose to get information from two parties, one from a mobile mortgage specialist specific to a bank that you cannot approach with a mortgage broker, and also consider a mortgage broker as well, and just have a conversation with them to see what they can do with them. So that's all about getting your loan organized. But again, the pre-qualification is such a major piece of that. You want to make sure that you got that covered. Now, jumping into the process as a whole, if you've never done this before, this is kind of how the process plays out. Oftentimes, you're first going to begin your search with a real estate professional. And we'll talk about real estate professionals a little bit later on in this video, but you're going to start your search with a real estate professional and you're going to view homes. And I've got to be frank with you, finding a home and viewing homes is somewhat like buying a car. And the reason I bring that up is because we've all bought cars likely before watching this video. And buying a home is really no different. You know, when you set out to buy a car, you've got a certain budget. There's certain types of vehicles or cars that fit within that budget. And then you're going to go investigate different brands, maybe used cars, new cars, but eventually they're all going to start looking the same. And you're going to make a decision on one based on the condition of it, the care of it, maybe how many kilometers it has on it, you know, some of the things that were important to you and the price. And eventually you're going to make a decision on it. Buying a home is no different at all. There's differences in every single home. But after a while, they start to look the same, especially when you're shopping within a budget. So we find that when we work with people buying a home, it usually takes in and around 3 weeks. Sometimes can be quicker, sometimes can be a little bit longer, between when they actively get serious about looking for a home until they actually find the one that they are serious in or serious for. Now, they could look at homes for years, okay? But the idea of that, just like a car, if you have X amount to spend on a car, you're not going to see major differences likely between the vehicles that you're looking at because you've got a budget, and the same is true for a home. So that's why most people end up doing it within about 3 weeks. After they find the home that they're looking for, they're going to make an offer on that property. Ideally, the seller is going to agree to it after some negotiation back and forth. At that point, we call that getting an accepted offer. Prior to getting into that accepted offer, though, your real estate professional is going to help you doing some price research on the property, so you know or can feel confident in the amount that you finally end up paying for it in the end. So you're going to want to demand that price research out of your realtor. You're also going to talk about what needs to go on to that contract to help protect your best interests. So as an example, you need to make sure that the bank's going to give you money. You might choose to do a home inspection on the property. You might choose to review strata documentation if you're buying a strata like a townhouse or a condo. You might choose to have all of that homework on the offer to make sure that you don't buy something without knowing absolutely everything about it, okay? So this is a really important piece of it. And typically, you're not going to know all that information in advance of writing an offer. You're going to figure that out once you get the offer confirmed with the seller. You guys have agreed to a price and dates that you're going to buy it. And that's now going to allow you to go into what we call your due diligence period to start doing your homework to make sure that this is a smart move. It's a good buy. This is something you're going to want to proceed with, okay? So you're going to write up this offer. You've done your price homework. You're also going to decide on how much of a deposit that you're going to want to put down on the property should you agree to it. Now, worth mentioning that this is a little bit different than some other provinces in Canada, where you're going to put down a deposit amount when you remove your conditions. And that money is kind of good faith money that you're going to give the remainder of the money to the seller when it comes time to complete on the property. So one unique thing about British Columbia, and I don't know where this came from, but it's kind of standard practice for the most part, is usually a seller wants to see in and around 5% of the purchase price. Now, there's nothing set in stone. A seller can say they're happy to take less, they can say they're happy to take more, they're demanding more, that sort of thing. But this catches a lot of people off guard from out of province that they need to come up with 5% of the purchase price for a deposit. So there's solutions around that. If you're interested in them, we won't get into them in this video, but you can certainly reach out to us privately and we'll let you know what some of the solutions are to come up with that money if you don't have it liquid, because maybe all your equity is sitting in your current property as an example. But that's something that you certainly don't want to have you catch yourself off guard. So anyways, we write this offer, we get into the acceptance period where we start doing our due diligence. And that's usually about 7 to 10 days, okay? We're going to research the property, send it to the bank, do the home inspection, do all the homework we need to make sure that you're making an incredible decision. And eventually you're going to get to a point where you say, look, this property makes sense. Everything we've checked out about it's still good. We do want to continue moving forward with it. That's when you would then remove those conditions, fully committing to the property at that point. This is when you've actually bought the house. That is actually when your deposit would be due. So you would now put down that 5% or whatever it is deposit, and that would typically go to the real estate brokerage of the realtor who's helping you purchase the home. Congratulations, you've now bought your home. Usually what you've done now at that point, and this isn't always the case, but you normally have now triggered the seller of the property that you're buying to go out and look for something new for them. So they now know their home is sold. They can go out and they probably need a little bit of time to search. They need a little bit of time to negotiate. And the seller of the property that they're buying might also need some time to do the same thing. So you could be starting this huge chain of events of sales. So oftentimes, don't be surprised that the seller, when you're deciding on dates on your offer, and they maybe counter your offer back, suggesting different dates, they need time to go find a house oftentimes as well. So from the time that you write your offer to the time you get in your home, that could be an extra 6 to 8 weeks easily, if not more. It could also be quicker. Maybe the property's vacant or is going to be vacant. There's nothing set in stone, but just be prepared for that as you kind of go through the process. So that's everything kind of in a nutshell there. But let's get into a little bit more specifically now. The search begins, okay? Your realtor is going to set you up with their back-end system. There's great websites out there for the public to make use of in terms of looking for real estate. But as you would expect, realtors have a way better back-end system than you have access to. We can search for very, very specific things. So all searches really begin with 4 major things, okay? The price you can afford, the location that you want to buy in, the size of the home that you want to buy in, and the lot size if you're buying a property like a detached home or something like that. Okay, that's what we call our primary criteria. And you can find all that stuff on most websites that are out there, publicly, that you're looking to buy something. The secondary part of that criteria, well, how many bedrooms do you need? How many bathrooms do you want? What's your preferred age of the property? Okay. And the reason those are secondary, it's not to say those aren't important, but the primary ones, I mean, you've only got a certain amount of money to spend. That trumps everything. You cannot buy a condominium in our neighborhood for $100,000. So it doesn't matter how many bedrooms and bathrooms you want. If you don't have the money to accomplish even buying a home or buying a home style that you want, it really doesn't matter, right? So that's why we say that's kind of secondary criteria. There's tertiary criteria as well, where we can start to get really granular and really specific. And this can be things like, I want a detached garage or 2 covered parking spaces, or I need a storage locker in my condo, or I want a south-facing backyard, or a balcony that's, a certain size, stuff like that. We can search by all that sort of thing. So that's why it's really nice to kind of create the search together with your real estate professional. And I want to just touch on this real quick too. The search is such a small piece of what a realtor does for a client when they're helping them buy a property. So don't get too hung up on the search. You have access to the exact same properties that your real estate professional does. They can just pay better attention to the better qualified properties that you are considering. And by creating this search together, it's certainly going to help both you be on the same page and probably give you some advantage into getting into the best properties that are right for your scenario first before anybody else. So that's always good. Next, it's time to go out and look at the home. So in our particular practice, this isn't necessarily the same for everybody, but in our practice, we like to know that we've got next day's notice to go view the homes. And really the effective reason for this is because the seller wants you to see their home in the absolute best light possible as well. So, most homes right now, if I said, hey, we want to come over and we want to go check out your property, they've still got cereal bowls in the sink from breakfast, and the kids' laundry's on one of the beds, and the home's not in a really great shape to be able to show it to you. So this isn't always the case, but often sellers appreciate notice to be able to get into homes. And by giving them notice and allowing yourself some notice as well to get into these homes, you can also make the most effective use of your time. We recommend that you try and view roughly about 4 homes at a time each time you go out for viewings. The reason for this is simple. There's a couple of them, actually. Well, we want to make the best use of your time. You're probably commuting to come look at these homes from maybe a different area. So we want to get you into a reasonable amount of homes to make sure we're making the best use of your time. We also want to make sure that you can compare these homes to each other. So home A or home number 1, had this, but home number 2 is a little bit better because of this. So we want to be able to compare these homes side by side with each other. The reason we tend to limit it to 4, though, is if I show you 10 homes in one afternoon, your mind is going to melt. There's too many it becomes too confusing, and we see this time and time again with buyers. So we usually try and cap it at about 4 o'clock. And normally you don't want to spend 6 hours with your real estate professional going out looking at homes. That's a long day for you and for them. So we're also going to ask you alignment questions at every single property. And we want to know, does this location work for you? Does this layout work for you? Those are really important questions. Does this price point work out for you? You should only really be looking at homes that fit your price point anyways. But some real estate professionals might guide you differently on that. But do these items work for you? Because if they don't, if you don't like the location, if you don't like the layout, let's just get out of there. Let's go look at the next home. There's no point in hanging around. But if you do like everything you see, okay, that's where you should maybe start considering keeping a no pile and a yes pile. All the ones you don't like go in the no pile. All the ones that you maybe want to see for a second look, you could go back and look at these yes properties again and now compare the best of the best to each other. So that's why we like to ask those alignment questions. And if you don't find anything that fits the bill for you, you just plan your next time to go out and look at properties. Okay, so you found the property that you absolutely love now, and it's time to write an offer. So what do? So when it comes to writing an offer, number one, you need to make sure that you're going to be comfortable with the amount that you're going to be offering on the property. And that's where a home value audit comes in. You're going to be reviewing characteristically similar homes, market conditions, and additional factors to determine what the fair market value is. That doesn't mean that's what you need to offer on the property, but what that does mean is you need to be comfortable knowing that if you pay a certain price for a property, that you're not overpaying. Underpaying is maybe not such a bad thing, but overpaying you certainly don't want to do. So prior to writing an offer, you should definitely be reviewing the home's value. You're going to talk about those conditions that are required to make sure that you protect your interests. You're not going to be jumping into a property with your eyes blindfolded, as an example. So what needs to be discovered about that property prior to you committing to it in full? And also talk about, we talked about the price, but when do you want to move in? When's completion, when's possession? We'll talk about what I mean by those in a moment. And what is the deposit amount that you will put down when you are prepared to remove your conditions. So you're going to negotiate back and forth with the seller. Ideally, you're going to get your offer accepted, and boom, now it's time to jump into your due diligence clauses. So you're going to see a list on the screen here of very common due diligence clauses that most people might consider putting on their offer. But what I want to let you know is that every home is unique, and there may be unique circumstances where you need more of a specialty term or a specialty condition to make sure that you are getting all the information about a property that you need. So as an example, let's say it's a rural property and it's got maybe a well that is where the drinking water and the shower water and all that comes from. Well, you might decide to do some testing on that water. How much is available? Is it safe to drink? What sort of chemicals do you need for it? Maybe there's a septic field. Maybe there's a condominium or a townhome you're interested in, and the strata is being sued. Well, that would certainly be some good stuff to know about, right? So there's some very specific conditions that you want to investigate that sometimes fall outside of the more common ones that you want to make sure you get the information on prior to committing to a property. But the common ones include that you're going to get your financing confirmation from whatever lender, home inspection, getting an insurance quote to make sure there's no surprises, reviewing the ownership and the title of the property, doing something called a property disclosure review where the seller's telling you everything that they know about the property, and perhaps you also consider getting external professional advice. Maybe there is strata documents that need to be reviewed, and of course the other niche products that we had mentioned previously. So you've got your accepted offer, you're going through this due diligence, and everything checks out. Ideally everything checks out and you're prepared to remove your conditions. Real quick, what happens if everything doesn't check out? Well, if you have those conditions to protect yourself in there, you as the buyer, you have the option to walk away from the property and not continue on with the purchase. You also could try to renegotiate with the seller. Maybe there's a major repair coming up or needed that you weren't aware of. Well, you can bring that to the seller's attention and say, look, we offered you X amount, but we need X amount minus $5,000 because this is something that we weren't prepared for, that we didn't know going into it. So you can certainly do that. However, of course, the seller needs to agree to that as well. So, but let's say everything works out for the purposes of this video today. What you're going to do is you've removed conditions. You've now committed to the property. This is when your deposit is going to go down. Okay, this is when that roughly 5% is going to be done usually on either a bank draft or a certified check and given given to your real estate professional. You're going to sign the removal documents, now committing 100% to the property. And there's a few things that are going to happen between now and then. We call this kind of the slow period or the dead period, where once you remove conditions, things do slow down a little bit, but you're going to commit or decide on the lawyer or notary you want to use to help you with the conveyance of the property. You may consider booking moving companies at that time. You may consider hiring cleaners to come help with the new house for the day that you move in. And you want to finalize any financing and insurance requirements that you might have. So we're into this little lull period now. And as I had said earlier in the video, it could be anywhere between 6 to 8 weeks. So you're going to finally get in and you're going to experience what's called completion and possession. Completion in British Columbia, this is the date that you actually own the home. Your insurance will start at this date. Your mortgage will start at this date. You are actually the owner of the property. However, possession is a different date. And this is where it's different from other areas of Canada as well, where you typically in BC don't take possession until at least a day after the completion date, if not a few days after. So I won't get into the reasons why BC does it differently than some other provinces. I think the other provinces are kind of silly in the way they do it, but they think we're silly. So who knows who's right. But completion and possession are not always the same dates in BC. So just wanted to make sure you knew that. Now on your screen, what you're going to notice is we've got a slide called a doctor versus a realtor. Okay. We've gone over the whole process of buying your property. And you're kind of into the new property now. You're going to take possession of the property you're going to move in. Your realtor is going to hopefully walk through the property with you, check all the appliances, make sure nothing's broken, make sure everything's clean, and they're going to guide you if there's any challenges and ideally follow up with you after the day you move in to make sure everything is still going well for you. We're going to talk about agency now, though. Okay, and this is really important. This is where another area where we differ a ton compared to other areas in the province. And here's what it is. A lot of people think working with a realtor is very similar to working together with a doctor. So imagine this for a moment. You go on holidays somewhere and it's out of country. It's not in Canada, somewhere where you don't live, whatever country you're watching this in. And let's say you break your knee. Okay, a really bad break. And maybe you really need your knee, obviously, to walk around. But let's also say that you're a budding soccer superstar. Okay, well, getting your knee fixed is quite important. And when you go to see a doctor, you know that wherever you go, that doctor is there to give you the best advice possible, and they're there to help you. They're going to take on everybody they can and do the best they can to help that person. Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter where you're from. A doctor will help everybody, okay? That's not the same as a realtor. In British Columbia, a realtor is very specific to who their client is. And unless a realtor works for you, well, they almost work against you, very much so like a lawyer. Realtors know exactly who their clients are. Additionally, unlike other provinces, in British Columbia, a realtor can, for the most part, I'm not going to get into all the nuances, but for the most part can only represent one party. Okay, this is important. So in other provinces in Canada, a real estate professional can represent both the buyer and the seller in something called limited dual agency. For most cases, in almost all areas in British Columbia, that is not the case. A realtor either works for the buyer or works for the seller. There's no in between. Now, you as a consumer, you can choose to not use a realtor at all. That would be a huge mistake. And in fact, there's documentation that essentially might as well have rather, a skull and crossbones on it saying that you are crazy if you decide to do this without the help of a professional, maybe lawyer or real estate professional. So in British Columbia, if you go into an open house and it's the listing realtor who's working with the seller at that open house, know that they work for the seller, not for you. Everything you tell them, their job is to report that back to the seller. If you tell them you can afford X amount, their job is to report that back to the seller. If you tell them that you need to move before the end of the month because of X, Y, and Z, their job is to report that back to the seller. And all of this could affect your position. It could affect your negotiating standpoint. So it's really critical that you understand the differences between a doctor and a realtor. Okay, realtor is much more like a lawyer. Agency is a big deal in British Columbia. Who's working for you? Okay, so when you have a realtor in BC that's working for you, they owe you a few things, okay, among many other things. And it depends on what type of agreement you enter into with your realtor. But effectively, they owe you full loyalty. They are legally obligated to protect and promote your best interests as they would their own. They also owe you full disclosure. So in this case, when you're buying a home, their job is to learn everything they can about that property and provide you with that information. However, if they learn anything that might affect your want to buy the property or continue buying the property, or they learn anything about the seller that they think will be advantageous to you, their job is to tell you that. They also have the responsibility to keep your information completely confidential. Why you're moving, how much you can afford, all of your pertinent details that are personal. They have the responsibility to keep those confidential just between you and them. And they also have the duty to avoid conflict. So if you wanted to see the realtor who's helping you buy, if you wanted to buy a listing that they have for sale, they can't represent you. You can still buy it and the seller can still sell it to you, but they are the problem. So there's ways of dealing with that and avoiding that conflict, because you want to make sure you got a fair shot at buying a place and getting the absolute best terms and best price as a buyer for it. And the seller, really, they deserve to be represented appropriately and fairly as well. So that's kind of unique to BC, and certainly important thing to understand when you're coming here. In fact, so important that whenever you contact a realtor and you start asking them for things like opinions or to go show you properties or provide what we call trading services, they are supposed to provide you with a document. I'm going to show you later on in this presentation. You don't have to sign it, but you definitely want to read it and understand. And their obligation is actually to provide that to you before they provide you anything considered to be a trading service. Now, they can answer questions. If you ask them, how much is the price of this home, or do you know the prevailing rate of mortgages right now, they can answer direct questions like that because they're factual. However, when it comes to things like opinion and trading services, as I mentioned, they actually need to send you this document. So I'm going to show you that momentarily. Okay. So what does a realtor do? If you're somebody that's newer watching this video, why have a realtor in the first place? What do you even need one for? So I'm going to go through these a little bit rapid fire here. But number one, a realtor represents your best interests and provides you guidance. You don't buy a home every day. Most people will buy like 3 in their lifetime. So you certainly want that professional guidance as you're going through it, because it is a high stakes game. You're spending a lot of money and you do not want to get it wrong. So that's a huge piece of what a realtor does. They're also a third-party negotiation expert, likely. So what that means is, if you and me are trying to buy and sell something off each other, we're both emotionally invested. Whereas a third party, they can stand on the sidelines and watch things unfold and give unbiased guidance to you, unemotional guidance to you, to try and help you be more successful. And normally that's going to work out quite well for you. So that's a big piece of it as well. Real-time market values, knowing the actual price of the home that you're going to buy. If it's listed for $1 million and you got an accepted offer for $950 and you think you are the best negotiator on the planet, well, what if it was really worth $920 and you just overpaid by $30,000? We don't want that to happen. So you want those real-time market values. They can also help filter the homes you view, so you're not looking at homes that don't really match your criteria. They have a lot more time to spend sifting through properties than likely you do, because I assume you have a job, otherwise you wouldn't be buying a home. Maybe you got a big suitcase full of money from an inheritance or something. I don't know. But hopefully you got lots of money anyways. I wish that for you. They manage and oversee the entire process, as I kind of mentioned above. There is a supporting team that you may need as well. So from appraisers to alternate lenders to lawyers and notaries, home inspectors, or specialists that may be involved in the transaction. They usually are going to have a list of really qualified people that they could provide you with. They're going to eliminate the guesswork. They're going to help you write an enforceable agreement. That's really important as well. When you buy a house, you want to make sure that the agreement you've written is actually enforceable, and you can ensure that you're going to get that, especially in a market where the prices are going up. You want to make sure that that house that you wrote an offer on is going to be yours at the end of the day. And the last thing I'll leave you with for this particular slide is they're insured for your protection. That means if they screw up for whatever reason, they have insurance, and that insurance is there to protect you so you can be compensated and the wrong can be righted. And that's not something that you would get, obviously, if you didn't have a realtor that was representing you or working for you in that case. So that's a really great perk that I don't think gets mentioned quite enough. So how do you choose a realtor? I absolutely love this saying that your agent only matters if the result matters. There's a lot of realtors out there. Let's be frank, okay? In British Columbia, at the date of filming this, I want to say there's probably about 24 to 25,000 in the province. In the Lower Mainland, you're probably looking, which is like Vancouver area, all the way out to like Abbotsford type thing. You're probably looking at anywhere between 18 to 19,000 realtors. That's a ton. So how do you choose one? Okay. This is what we find a lot of people do when they choose their realtor. And there's a few different ways to find a realtor. These are kind of the 8 that we've identified. And we're not going to go too much into these in this particular presentation, but linked in the description below, I am going to link a video that we did called A Good Realtor Near Me. And it's all about how to pick the absolute best realtor. This is completely critical to make sure that you get the absolute best result. Okay. So you may not be able to tell on your screen here, but there's a few that are highlighted in blue and some that are black. So how some people can choose their realtor is you've got an area expert, you've got a situational expert. You can pick them based on the price they charge you. You can pick them based on their reputation, the results that they produce, how compatible you feel you are with them, maybe having a previous relationship with them, or sometimes you might even just meet them through happenstance. The ones in blue are the ones that we identify as being the absolute most important. Now, I really want you to watch that video, so do check it out after you've had an opportunity to watch this. But we highly recommend that you either work with an area expert, somebody who knows the area that you're looking at buying at intimately. Okay, if they have to drive more than 45 minutes to go show you a home from where they're located, they probably don't know the area that well. Okay, a situational expert. And situational experts are like, maybe there is a reason why you need somebody who specializes in that type of property. An easy example of that would be you want to buy a commercial property rather than a residential property. Well, those are 2 very different transactions. So you want to make sure you've got the most qualified person helping you with that. And in the video that I mentioned, we will go over what situational experts are needed for different situations and where you may not need one, where you might see some people advertising that they're a situational expert. An example of that is working with seniors. Well, just because you're a senior, that doesn't make the transaction necessarily any different. You might be, have good bedside manner with a senior, but that's certainly not an area where I think a situational expert is needed, where the example previously with a commercial expert, if you're buying a commercial property, is certainly one where it is warranted. Price charge. Hey, look, you don't work with anybody that you want. I'm a big believer that you get what you pay for in life. And that is something that you do want to have a conversation with your realtor about, is how are they compensated? We're going to talk about that a little bit later in this video, but that's an important piece, that you know how your realtor is compensated. Let's get this off right here, right now. Buying a home is not a free service. Okay. And anybody that suggests to you that when they help you buy a home as a real estate professional, that it's free for you, it's not true. It's 100% not true. So stay tuned to the end of the video and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But that's not how we think you should be picking your realtor. Reputation is a big one. I think that speaks for itself. And one of the biggest ones we think is important is results that they have produced, specifically the results they produced in the past. So if you jump onto the Germyn Group's website as an example, you'll see the results that we produced for our clients based on last year. So a big subset of all the results that have been produced over the course of the last year. So we think that's a really good way of picking a real estate professional. Compatibility, relationship, happenstance, not a way that you should be picking somebody to help you buy your most valuable asset, in our opinion. So anyways, watch the video. You're going to get a ton of value out of that, okay? So now that you've picked your realtor, you've understand agency a little bit, here's some documents that you might encounter, or not might, really, you should encounter these when you're purchasing a home. So this, actually, we're going to this slide right now. So in the white, when you pick your realtor, here's the deal. Who you hire matters. If you hire someone that doesn't have a lot of experience, maybe they're new to the business or they haven't done many transactions, you need to be aware of this, okay? Because this is what is at risk for you. The first one is the process could be completely unorganized. They may be a new and unexperienced agent. And that's not to say that new agents are bad. That's not to say that, anything's wrong with being a new agent. I was new once a long time ago as well. But if it's important to you that they have experience in providing guidance with transactions, That's a question that you should ask and you should deserve to have answered. So, also, do they have a second job or do they have any additional time constraints? That could lead to an unorganized process as well. It's okay to have a second job as a real estate professional. However, do you want to know that when you hire somebody? And I think that's a fair question you could ask. Do you want somebody who's a generalist or a specialist? And the last one is lack of infrastructure. If they don't have the experience or maybe they don't have the time or the amount of transactions under their belt to really help you appropriately, there's a lot of situations that they likely haven't encountered before, and you don't want to be the test subject or the guinea pig for those. So having the proper infrastructure and support on the back end of how they run their business. Realtors are business people as well, and they're running a business behind the scenes. They are in charge of all the marketing and all of the payroll and every single thing that goes into being a realtor. So you want to make sure they have the infrastructure on the back end. You also want to make sure you have a trusting relationship with them. An untrusting relationship is not a good thing to start off with when you're buying a home and spending a ton of money on a property. So you want to be clear on how they're compensated. You want to be supported. You don't want a salesperson pushing you to make a decision, and you don't want to be blissfully ignorant to the process. So I'm glad you're watching this video because now you're going to understand the process a lot more, but your realtor should be guiding you through every single step of the process, and you should feel like you're getting the absolute best advice. And the last thing that I worry about is that you buy the wrong home. What a terrible thing that could happen. We also don't want any costly surprises in the home that you buy. You work hard for your money. You deserve to know everything that you need to know about it. You don't want to be disappointed because you made an uninformed choice. Okay. And 36% of home buyers, we said, we don't want to be one of those. And you certainly don't want to overpay for a home. So when you work with a true professional, you're going to get an organized process. Okay. Like as an example for us at the time of filming this, it's been 16 to 17 years we've been in the business, top 1% of the industry. We're organized. We know what we're doing because of the amount of transactions we do. We actually have a full-time team. You don't necessarily need a full-time team with whoever you choose to work with. That's certainly up to you, but we have a full-time team and we cap the amount of clients that we work with because we can only focus on so many at a time. We don't want to take on 45 clients at a time because then we can't give them the attention they deserve nor produce the results that we're known for when we help them buy a home. You want somebody who's a specialist and also has systems that they can depend on. Relationships are very key as well. Okay. You want to have full disclosure on how your real estate professional is compensated. You also want an advisor, not a salesperson, somebody who's got your best interest in heart or at heart, in heart, however you want to say it. But you want to make sure that they're there for you. Okay. Whether you buy this house or not, we don't care, right? We just want what's best for you. That's what's important. That's what you really deserve when you're buying a home and working with a real estate professional. And you want somebody that has the best practices down. Okay. Like as an example, in the previous year, our real estate team, we have specialists on our team, but we also sold about 17 times the amount of homes that the average real estate professional in our marketplace sold. That means we have a lot of experience working with people, helping them negotiate on properties, doing homework on properties, understanding market values. There's so much that goes into that to unpack, but that's really, really important because that means that you're getting a true professional because they have done the transactions, they know how to do them, and they do them very frequently. You might consider that somebody that only sells 6 homes a year, or 10 homes a year, 10 homes a year is less than 1 per month. Do you want to spend all of your hard-earned money on the most valuable asset or one of the most valuable assets you might ever own with somebody that only does a transaction 1 time per month? Okay, so something to think about. And the last one is you want to make sure that you buy the right home. You want fulsome guidance on the property you choose and make sure that you get everything that you need to know about that particular property. You want to make sure that you know everything about the market that you need to know, and you want to make sure that you get that written pricing report and skill negotiating when it comes time to buying your next home as well. So that's a little bit about that. That's what you get when you get a true professional. Okay, that's the way that it really should go down. So what I want to show you now real quick, not going to bore you with these, but these are 4 documents that you might encounter or you should encounter when you're purchasing a property in British Columbia. The first one's titled Your Relationship with a Real Estate Professional. It's disclosure of representation and trading services. That's kind of what we call it. And this just really outlines the responsibilities of a realtor representing a person, whether they are a client or a non-client. This is what is to be presented to people prior to providing those opinions or those trading services that we discussed. Okay, this is a really important one. Agency, again, is a big deal in British Columbia. And there can be more documents similar to these depending on what type of agency that you decide on. The next one is a privacy notice and consent notice. And this just really outlines the how and the why of how your personal information is disclosed and allows for a conversation about your privacy rights. So this is a great one to kind of dig in deeper about your personal information and how it may be used during the course of the transaction. This next one is called a buyer's agency agreement. This one is your agreement between you and your realtor about what services they're going to provide you, how long you're going to work together, what your obligations to them are, and what their obligations to you are, and also is going to discuss how they're compensated. It clarifies the role of your agent and commits them to working with you. It clarifies your role to the agent and allows you to hire them for a fixed period of time, as mentioned. It identifies how the agent is compensated and allows you to hold your agent accountable. Okay. One thing I want to address before I jump off of this is no different than a listing agreement a seller would do with a real estate professional when they're selling their home. This is so valuable for a home buyer to use one of these that it's incredible. Okay. You want to be able to hold your real estate professional accountable. You want to know exactly what their obligations are to you, and it's actually good for them to know what your obligations are to them. You want to make sure you have the absolute best person working for you. So let's talk about compensation for a moment. Oftentimes in the real estate space, we hear people all the time tell a home buyer just like you that it's free to buy a house. The commission's paid by the seller. You don't have to worry about a thing. I want to slow that down for a moment. I want you to think about the seller paying the realtor that's helping you buy a home. Okay. Where does that money come from? The seller. The seller gives the money to the realtor helping you buy a home. Well, where does the seller get the money? The seller gets the money from you. That's right. So who in fact is actually paying the fee for service? It's you, the buyer. You are giving the money to the seller, who then in turn is giving it to your realtor. Okay. So it's really important to understand how your realtor is compensated. And that's a conversation that you and your realtor absolutely need to have, because there may be times where they may need more compensation based on how things play out. Maybe if the seller is not offering a compensation at all, maybe they're offering less than what your realtor charges for the services that they are providing you. Maybe you want to buy a for sale by owner home. And it's important that you get the proper information on all these homes. You get the proper guidance. You get the opportunity to see all of these homes. So you absolutely want to have the conversation with your realtor about how they're compensated and feel comfortable knowing exactly what's going on. When you don't have those conversations, it's almost like you're blindfolded and you're not getting the full story. So this is a really important document, and it's also really important to have that compensation conversation with your realtor. The next one that I want to share with you is just a financing confirmation. Now, this allows you to have, your realtor to have conversations with your mortgage lender to make sure you've got that pre-qualification, which is such an important thing, as I mentioned. So under agency, your realtor is not supposed to share any personal information with anybody, including your lender, nor is your lender with your realtor. So this just gives them permission to kind of work together, because obviously they need to be in close contact with each other. So those are the 4 documents that you likely will encounter when you start out on the home buying process, and now you know a little bit more about them. So what happens next? We're going to start to wrap this video up a little bit. What happens next? Where do you go from there? Well, if you are considering buying a home in the area that the Germyn Group services, please consider reaching out to us. We will leave a link in the description below where you can schedule an appointment via Zoom with us, where we can just have a conversation about what your plans are and see what we can actually do to help you. And I implore you to check out our Google reviews, check us out on our website, check us out on every corner of the web, and just see what people are saying about us and what kind of results we've been able to produce. I'm sure you will be very impressed, as most people are. But we have a team of real estate professionals. So this is our team. You've got myself, you've got Adam, and you've got Haley, all incredible people that are going to take very, very wonderful care of you. So if you'd like to reach out to us, we certainly would love to have you. And if you are maybe in an area outside of the areas that we service, let us know anyway. You can comment on the YouTube video that you're watching this on. You can send us an email, inquire on our website, and we have partners all across Canada, all across British Columbia. If it's in an area that we don't service or we don't feel that we know appropriately where we can give you the best advice, we do know somebody that's in that area that we can help get you set up with to make sure you've got the absolute best person helping you in that particular area. So that's a little bit about our team. But what do you do next? So there's a couple things. As I had said, check out the description if you'd like to reach out for a personalized buyer strategy session or your own personalized home buyer mastery presentation. Very similar to what we went over in today's video, but you get to have a conversation with us. We get to go back and forth and ask questions, and you get to ask us questions, which is really great. Make use of the Calendly link and be sure to jump in, and we'll book something where we can get in front of each other, likely over Zoom, or we can meet in our office as well. So that's one thing you can consider. You can also consider if you're coming from out of province, out of country. Today's video has been a really quick attempt, roughly an hour, at giving you all the information you need. There is so much more that can go into buying a home. And if you're someone that's not working with our team in one of the areas that we service, there's probably some more information that you stand to know. And we can't guarantee that you're going to get that with other real estate professionals in other areas of the province, just because we don't know them and we don't know how they run their business and the information they get. So we would encourage you to consider visiting our BC Home Buyers course and checking it out. It is over 3 hours of information, very similar to what you experienced today, but in a lot more detail, making sure no stone is left unturned when it comes to buying a home. And this is something that we offer out for free to our current clients or anybody that registers on it and ends up buying a home with us. We actually will refund their registration fees. Or if you do register for the course and you end up working with one of our partners in other areas of British Columbia, we will also refund any fees that you've paid for the course. So check that out if you're interested. That's certainly another resource that we've made available for you. And we've also got a Strata 101 course at the same link. So you can check that out as well if you're buying a Strata. This is all critical information that's really important before you get involved with the Strata that you need to know. So you'll be able to find access to that on there as well. So look, that is the end of today's video. I hope you learned a ton. I would love to know in the comments below, did you learn something that you didn't know? Did you get value out of this course? What questions do you have? Don't hesitate to reach out to us and leave us a comment or a question, and I will get back to you. I will definitely respond to every comment that comes into these videos. So don't forget to do that. And if you found this video valuable, again, please give us the like, the thumbs up to help other home buyers across the province and across the country and across the world find this video to make good use out of it. And if you are someone, lastly, that is interested in updates regarding BC real estate or in the areas that we service like South Surrey, White Rocks, Surrey, or the surrounding municipalities, don't forget to subscribe so you get updated every time we release a new video that is going to be of incredible value to you. So anyways, I want to thank you for watching. I hope you learned something, and we will definitely wish you a ton of success when it comes to buying your next home in British Columbia. Cheers.